Hey, hold up. I want to know something. Are you chilling on a park bench right now? Are you sitting in the back of the bus, vibing out, possibly hanging from the tree, enjoying the view? Well, you're probably in the right place. This is not another question. If you end up liking what you hear, tell a friend or leave a review. Welcome back, questionnaires. You know the voice. I am Julian. My name today is Think Tank. Tyler is not here, but we have the great guest, Jack Kammer, with us, and he reminds me of why I wanted him on the show because he's a great time. You're very funny, Jack.
Thank you. And sometimes I even mean to be.
But we were talking about, I was going to say backstage, like I have a host, but we were just talking about the question that we were going to discuss earlier today. But before we get into that, how was your last 7-ish days? Because I know we both kind of had a...
Well, my last few days have been really fun because we got a new puppy here.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. A little poodle. He's a sweetheart and he's a little bit naughty.
Mm-hmm.
But that's good because he's full of energy and he's just running around and the big trick is introducing him to his 10-year-old brother, so to speak, his housemate. We've got another poodle,
okay,
who's 10. This guy is 5 months old. So the old man isn't sure he wants this crazy kid in the same house. But then again, we do see sparks of the crazy kid sort of breathing new life into the old man. It's been fun. It's been really fun.
That's really nice. Anything else going on in your last, I guess, week that you want to share?
We had a power outage a couple of nights ago, and that had to be all worked out. I had to fire up our generator, and I'm still getting things back to normal without the generator. And a lot of trees got knocked down, so I've been clearing our fence. And it's as my mother used to say, if it's not one thing, it's two.
I haven't heard that one. I've always heard if it's not one thing, it's always another. I like that though.
Good.
Yes.
And how about your week?
My week has been a lot actually. I don't even know where to start. I'm going to go backwards from today, going back to 7-ish days. So today, driving into work, everything's fine, as fine as it could be. And my commute is an hour. I'm 5 minutes from my job, and I realized I don't have my wallet on me. Like I'm like, oh, that's great. Don't have my wallet on me. I'm not driving a whole hour back because in my wallet there's a card I need to use to log into my laptop. And I'm like, luckily I was able to find a workaround to continue doing work today, or I would have had to make an hour trip 4 times. There, back, there. Yeah, 4 times. So glad that happened. My mom was just in town for the weekend because she likes to do a regular check-in with me and my sibling who's also here in Atlanta, but it was also for like Mother's Day. So
where's your mom live?
Florida.
And where are you now?
I'm in Atlanta.
In Atlanta. Okay, yeah that's right. I remember talking to you before.
Yes. So she we had a great time. I took her out to dinner and tried to get breakfast for her. There was a little mishap, but everything went well. Picking up my mom was a very interesting thing because here I am waiting at the bus stop and everything. And with being in downtown Atlanta, there's a lot of homeless people. That's not a problem. I'm in my car. No one's bothering anyone. Everything's fine. And then there's one woman. She looks into, and mind you, my car see-through, like not see-through, but no tint on the window or anything. Looks through my car. I'm like, okay, well, that's whatever. she walks away and then she comes back and opens up my car door. I'm like, well, one, I was surprised that the door was even unlocked to begin with. and she's trying to like come into the car. I'm like, I just have to stick up my hand. Oh, I'm in the driver's seat. I'm like, no. But didn't say a word, didn't say anything, almost as if I wasn't there almost. And she just walked away. Immediately locked the door after that. But yeah, and then
That's
I think
pretty weird.
Yeah, that was I will say the highlight of my last 7-ish days. Everything else was just me trying to catch up on sleep. Oh, because my sister trying to catch up from sleep from the last week because it was my sister's birthday. So had a great time there. And so yeah, that's my 7-ish days in a nutshell. It's
Well, it sounds like you survived, and it's a good thing you're young.
Like your mom says, if it's not one thing, it's two, and that's usually my life. It's always something going on, so it's very entertaining, I will say.
Plus, you are getting a chance to demonstrate your resilience, which is a big word these days. Right?
Yes.
Being resilient that's the thing. It's trending.
Yeah, I'm not really too big on trends, but I do agree with you. Resilience is definitely one of them. But with all that said, I guess we should get into the question. Jack, what is the question for today?
Today's question is it a man's world? Should I proceed with trying to answer that?
I think you should, because it was your question, and I'm curious to what you have to say.
Well, maybe I should ask you, what's your question?
Well, my question or my answer? My question is, I don't think it's a man's world. Because I think that's I'm going to say the word archaic is the word that I'm looking for. Is because it's way more complicated than it's just a man's world. Men can do whatever they want. Because that's just not the time we're living in right now. Because just think about it. Everything that's in society right now takes more than just one person, and it definitely takes women to make this society function. That's my short answer, at least.
Okay, so you said it definitely takes a woman to make society function.
Yes.
Okay. Well, that's a good answer. Does it, in your view, does it also take a man to make society function?
Yeah, no, it takes two. It definitely takes I say it takes a village. It takes man, woman, child, everything. It takes everyone to work together to make society function as it is, good and bad.
Very good. Well, let me, if I may, if it's okay with you, let me try to answer the question in the way I think it's usually asked.
Okay.
Which is, people say it's a man's world. And when they say that, I think what they mean to convey is that men have all of the advantages, they have all of the power, that men have lots of privileges, that men get away with things that women don't get away with, that overall it's more fun and easier and more fulfilling to be a man than it is to be a woman. You know, that everything goes men's way because it's a man's world, and that's the way men built it, and they built it for themselves. That's what I think they're saying. And I think the answer to that is, well, sort of. Because the question really needs to be analyzed before it can be answered. Because if you look at the question, is it a man's world? It and world are both singular. The question assumes that it's either a man's world or it's not. Well, what I like to point out is that it's possible for human life to consist of two worlds at the same time. the typical world we think of when we hear that it's a man's world, and that makes us say, yeah, of course it is. We think of the places where men have been historically dominant, like in the government, in big corporations, big businesses, who's earning the most money, not necessarily who's spending it, but who's earning it. Men are earning more money. Men have been all of the presidents. If you look at the Fortune 500 companies, you see that the Fortune 500 companies have almost all men as their CEOs. So in traditional places of male power, you see a lot of men.
Yeah.
Which is almost, by definition. The male domain has been hierarchical. There are a lot of men who are doing really well, and we talk a lot about them. We talk about the men in the Fortune 500, and look at how many of those guys are guys. What we don't do is look at the misfortune 5 million. And we don't look at the guys at the lower levels of this male hierarchy.
Yeah.
So there is a man's world, and for some men, it's a pretty good deal. For most men, it's an okay deal. For a lot of men, it's not a very good deal at all. So that is my view of the male world.
Okay.
It's got some good things to it. If you're a lucky man, if you're an unlucky man, it's got a lot of bad things to it. Now, I mentioned that world and it are both singular.
Yes.
Is it possible that we have two worlds existing at the same time? Is it possible that we have a world that is a man's world and a world that is a woman's world at the same time? And I think the answer is very clearly yes. Before women got into corporate life and academia and became politicians and astronauts and whatever they wanted, and men were the ones who were working all day, there was no common usage of the phrase work-life balance.
Yeah.
Now, you've heard the term work-life balance. It's a pretty common phrase, right?
Yes.
Well, that phrase suggests very clearly the two worlds that are existing at the same time. There's the work life, and then there's the life, or the home life.
Okay.
And they both exist at the same time. Now, when men were the ones who were working mostly outside the home, and they got yelled at by their boss, they didn't say, "Oh my God, this is a hostile work environment." What they said was, "Oh, I got my ass chewed out by my boss." It's the way it was. That was the work life for men. It's got its advantages if you're a powerful man, not so many advantages if you're not a powerful man.
I wanted to touch on that point where, because that's something that that I've noticed in life is that we usually highlight the exceptions to life. Like how you were saying, there's the Fortune 500, and there's only a few people up there. But when you look at the totality of everyone, it not even skews, but it broadens the horizons. Like, it's not just this one thing that you're looking that you're highlighting for sure. Yeah, no, that was just my one point I wanted to. There's probably another thought in there somewhere, but I have to kind of work it out.
Well, yeah, let's continue and speak up when you want to.
Oh yeah, no.
when you want to say something, and I will hold my breath, and let's have a conversation.
Yeah, yeah.
So the way the male world, the male domain is shaped is like a pyramid, very wide at the bottom, very narrow at the top. And at the top of the male pyramid is, in my view, a lot of power that can be symbolized by, let's say, a dollar sign.
Okay, yeah.
The men at the top are very close to all those dollars. Men at the bottom are really far away from all those dollars. Plus, there's a lot more guys at the bottom of the pyramid who would like to have a piece of that dollar sign.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's the male power structure. Let's talk about what the female power structure might
Okay, I was about to say, I was going to ask, what would you say the female power structure is then?
Okay, so the male power structure is very tall, like a pyramid, or you could say like a skyscraper.
Okay.
It's 80 stories tall. You can see it from 20 miles away.
Okay.
when you're driving to New York and you look across the Hudson River, you can see all those skyscrapers. They're not hiding. They're sticking way up there. You can see them from 20 miles away.
Yeah.
There's no denying the power in a skyscraper. The female power structure does not have 80 stories. It's not a skyscraper.
Okay.
It might have only 2 or 3 stories.
Okay.
It's more like a convention center. It's where people get together.
It's kind of like a mall.
Like a mall, yes, or like an exhibition hall, a place to meet, a place to have exhibits, a place to show movies, a place to do presentations, a place to make friends, to make allies, to make business partners, to make deals. That's the female power structure. It's not very tall, but it covers 14 acres.
Okay.
It's much wider. And it's not so easy to topple over in an earthquake like a skyscraper is. It's much more stable. Now, whereas the male power structure has a dollar sign at its very narrow top, the female power structure doesn't have a dollar sign at its top. In fact, because it's only 2 or 3 stories tall, it doesn't really even have much of a top. It's a flat roof that covers 5 acres. Doesn't have a dollar sign at the top. Doesn't even have a top. What it has is a center.
Okay.
It has a center. And at the center of the female power structure is not a dollar sign. It's a big red heart.
Okay.
Now, we are a materialistic society. And so we have no trouble recognizing that dollars represent good things. Because with dollar signs, you can buy all kinds of stuff that you need, and you can also buy a lot of stuff that you don't need but you want. And it might be fun, and so you can benefit from being able to buy whatever you want, have whatever you want. As we all know, you get excited about having a new car.
Mm-hmm.
And after about, 3 months, you're spilling secret sauce from Burger King on it. On the upholstery. It sort of loses its glamour.
Yeah.
But that's the way of material things. They give you some happiness, but they're not the most important things in life.
Yes.
Of course, things like a place to live, enough food, good medical care, those are not extravagancies. Those are basics.
The necessity. No. The things that are needed. There we go. That's the
word needed. Good. Okay.
Things are needed.
Okay. So we have no problem recognizing the value of what's in the male domain.
Mm-hmm.
we're not so quick to acknowledge the value of what's in the female domain. You can imagine somebody looking at that big red heart in the middle of this huge convention center and saying, who cares about a big red heart? I want money. But if you're honest, you can acknowledge that at least some of the best things in life are free. Relationships don't have to be purchased. The love of your children doesn't have to be purchased. Your BFFs, your best buddies, don't have to be purchased. Love and care and affection and empathy and community, those can all be represented by the big red heart.
I like how you said that too, because that's actually something that I feel like I'm have the opposite mindset of everything. Well, not of everything, but basically I value things that I get for free way more than I spend money on, which you would think would be the opposite of how everything is, because how I see it is if I buy something, I can easily go out and buy it again. Either I have to raise the money or just go back to wherever. But when it comes to something free, the circumstances that made it free more than likely won't happen again. Like, case in point, I had a suitcase that someone gave me for my graduation, and I still use. And this was 2016, and I cared so much about it because I knew I was grateful that I didn't have to pay for multi-set suitcase, but two, I know that situation isn't going to happen again to where someone's going to gift me a suitcase. So I do my best to take care of my free, to hold on to it as long as I possibly can. And to the point where one day my senior year in college, I was moving in and everything, and someone else was holding the handle and it's broke on while they were holding it. I was a little upset about that. I was like, why would you break my stuff, even though it was just due to circumstance and there was no intention about it whatsoever. It made me feel a type of way for sure. And so when you say the woman's world is at the center, how do I want to put it? That in the woman's world generates free is at the center of their world. That just is the thing that I thought of when you said that.
Yeah. Another way to think of it is also to think of getting a card from somebody. If somebody gives you a card that costs $6.95 at the CVS, and it's written by somebody who works at Hallmark in Chicago that you'll never meet and doesn't know you, but they get paid to write, schlocky stuff to put inside of cards, you'll say thank you. But if somebody writes you a poem, because your puppy died, or your mom is sick, or somebody writes you a poem or draws you a picture and gives that to you, which is worth more? Which means more to you?
The picture. I will cherish that forever. And I really do mean that too, because I know when I do get cards from people, or when I did get cards, I hold on to the card. Like yes, I see the money. I push the money to the side and I read the card. And then I actually do keep all the cards that has been given to me over the years. So
you cherish the ones from Hallmark as much as the ones that were handmade. So yeah, you're a very appreciative person.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But I definitely, if you hand drew something to me, I probably would show it off. I would tell people about it. Usually the Hallmark cards I keep to myself. It's like, oh, this is a nice, thank you. I'm keeping this card. But if you went above and beyond to go out your way to do something, I definitely appreciate that for sure.
So if we have established, at least in the minds of some people, I'm sure there are people who hear this who are going to say, "Oh, that's a bunch of baloney. It's a man's world, and everybody knows it. And who cares about a stupid big red heart?" But some people are going to say, "Well, that's pretty interesting. I never thought of it like that." If there is not just one world, but two worlds that exist simultaneously, one of which is thought of as the man's world, the hierarchy, and one of which that we might think of as the women's world, which is not the hierarchy, but the network.
I like that.
It's a network where everybody's equal and everybody's pretty much got the same common interests. Because what really holds very closely associated with the big red heart in the women's domain is parenting, being a mother. And you will hear women say, "I'm the mother." It's very important to them, as well it should be, right? Now, if we look at the formerly male domain, it's not really still fully a male domain, because women have achieved pretty fair amount of success in gaining access to government, business, academia, jobs. Women can be astronauts, they can be scientists, and then nobody can tell them different. Young girls, little girls are growing up thinking they can be anything they want. Barbie can be anything. On the other hand, G.I. Joe is still a soldier. Right? So, in my view, one of the problems we have in America today that is very seriously adversely affecting men and boys is that what we call male privilege is sort of, I think you used the word archaic earlier.
Yes.
Sort of archaic. Like the modern women's movement started about 60 years ago in 1963.
Okay.
Some people say a little earlier. They'll take it all the way back to World War II, when a lot of women, at the government's request, left their homes, made different arrangements for their families to be taken care of, and went to work in shipyards and airplane factories and factories that built tanks for the war. And it was something new and different and interesting and exciting and fulfilling for them. And so after the war, a lot of women didn't want to go back. They didn't want to completely not go back, but they got the idea that there's good things in both of these worlds. Right?
Yeah.
The formerly male domain is now, I don't know, 60% male, 40% female, 55% male, 45% female. So that's a good thing, because in the old days, if a young woman wanted to become a lawyer, she wouldn't be able to.
Yeah.
Because the law schools wouldn't admit women. If she wanted to be a doctor, medical schools wouldn't admit women. A big waste of female talent.
I definitely agree. And this is actually a conversation that I have with a book club that I'm in, actually quite frequently. It's where the male, I'm going to use the male world is changing. I will say changing for the better, but in that same breath, it's people still want to hold on. It's like there's a duality where people want men to change, to be better, to not be that sexist. It's a man's world. Women can do anything a man can do, but also at the same time play the same role as as the changing role is like, oh, I want you to still do these same things. So we would say there's like a crossroads for men is like, what do you actually want us to do? And would you actually give us time to meet the expectations that you want us to be at? Because it seems like you want us to have immediate change, just like that.
True enough. It is interesting that we think of asking women, what do you want us to be? Notice that women didn't ask us, what do you want us to be in this new sexism-free world? In the world without sexism, where everybody's equal, women didn't say, what do you want us to be? Women said, we want to be whatever we want to be, and you can't stop us. And if you do, you're wrong, and you're being selfish and mean, and you're being chauvinistic and sexist, and here's what we're going to be. Our impulse as men, I think, should be the same, and not ask women, what do you want us to be, but to say to women, we're getting rid of sexism. I'm not going to do something that you want me to do just because I'm a man, if it doesn't make me happy, if it doesn't tap into my talents and my interests and make me feel fulfilled. And we talked about wasting women's talents. Girls, women who wanted to be lawyers, doctors, politicians, astronauts, soldiers, whatever. There were women who had aspirations for great things, but they couldn't become them because of sexism. A huge waste of their talents. The same is true, I believe, in a different way for men. Let's hold it right there for a second. I want to go back to the difficulties that women had in the early days of the women's movement.
Okay.
Women weren't able to just snap their fingers and say, sexism is gone, no more sexism. What they were able to say is, we're going to get rid of sexism. This is what we want. This is what we're going to get. A lot of men resisted that. How did they resist it? Well, they resisted it with stereotypes that were overly negative about women and stereotypes that were overly positive about men. Oh, men are logical. We can make strong decisions. We have a business sense. We can do math. Women, they're okay, but they're not logical. They can't do math. They cry too much. They can't make tough decisions. Blah, 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 blah. Right? Okay. All of those stereotypes about women being inferior and all of those stereotypes about men being superior have fallen at least into very serious question, if not completely and utterly proven to be ridiculous and false. And nobody dares to think that way. And if they do, they hardly would dare to say it out loud. So things are very much changed for women entering the male domain. How much have things changed for men who want to enter the female domain? And let's think about male. Go ahead. You want to say something?
I was thinking for that change, I feel like it's frowned upon for the most part. For stereotypical women roles, I'm like, men want to go into baking, men want to be nurses, men want to be the stay-at-home men. That seem frowned upon because, again, going back to the world's changing, but men's being stuck in and I don't even know, not parallel, but it's like they have one foot in and one foot out, and so when they are trying to adapt properly, I will say it's frowned upon in trying to force them back into that old world that they're that older generations or not even older what people are used to.
So if men were to ask women, well, what do you want us to be? A lot of them, I think, would say, we want you to be rich. We want you to make a lot of money. We want you to be strong and take care of the family physically, bring home the bacon, so we can have nice cars, nice houses, live in a nice neighborhood, go to nice schools. That's what we want. You're the man, and it's a man's world, and you have it so easy. So what kind of man are you if you aren't bringing home a lot of money? Which, of course, is ridiculous because we know a lot of men are not set up to make a lot of money.
Yes.
And so the pressure is on. And the shame can be on for a lot of men who are not able to fulfill what women want us to be. So it ain't going to work for us to say to women, what do you want us to be?
Yeah.
What we have to do is to think about what do we want us to be? And we talked about wasted talents of women. There is a lot of wasted talent of men. I think most people would agree that we do not in the United States of America have a surplus. We aren't overflowing with more good parenting than our children need. And so if we have a world in which women are dominant and they want to stay dominant, just like men wanted to stay dominant in the man's world, if women want to stay dominant so that they get all of the privileges that can be connected to the big red heart, I'm the mother. If there's a divorce, you're hitting the road, Jack, and I'm still the mother. And justifying that rough treatment of men and their superior treatment of themselves with stereotypes, very much like the stereotypes that men use to keep women out. What are the stereotypes about men these days? Men are clueless. Men are sex fiends. Men just want to drink beer, watch football. They're clueless. They can't multitask. They're full of sexual harassment. Oh, and by the way, they oppress women every chance they get. And they're not gentle enough to be with kids, and they're violent, and you can't trust a man with kids because he'll just sexually abuse them. All of those stereotypes that serve to disadvantage men, to privilege women, if they wish to be privileged in that way. Not all women do this, but a whole lot of them do. And it also disadvantages children because it's getting increasingly clear through the social science that the old idea that fathers were disposable and not important to their kids is clearly wrong. It's wrong. And so it's not just selfish, like it was selfish to keep women out of corporate jobs. It's actually sort of a form of what you might call child abuse. To set yourself up as the one and only primary parent, never being interested in working out a loving relationship on an equal basis with a man so that the kids that you might have together get the benefit of a loving mother and the benefit of a loving father. That is where we need to be. And I think when you think about that big red heart and the love and caring and emotions and all of the good things that are associated, it's pretty easy to see that as hard as men fought to keep their corporate skyscraper to themselves, it's pretty easy to see why women are going to fight at least as hard to keep the big red heart to themselves, and maybe, probably, a lot harder.
Oh yeah, you said we've been talking about how the worlds are kind of separate this whole entire time. I'm kind of want to hear your thoughts of how do you think they intersect? Like because like how you were saying this, I was going to say American society is where it's you were saying it was child neglect, I think is what you used.
Insufficient.
Yeah, insufficient because of how it's set up. So it's like, so how do they intertwine? Because I've been hearing in other countries where, let's just say fraternal leave, I think is what it's called, is where both the mom and the father take the same amount of time so they both can raise the child together. So how would you say that the worlds intersect?
Yeah, that's a really good question. What's the solution? How do we make this better? How do we have a situation where both men and women can have work and life balance?
Mm-hmm.
It's the question. It's the $64 bazillion question. How do we make it happen? Well, I would say that one of the very first steps has to be that we ask women to acknowledge the advantages they have from their proximity to the big red heart.
Mm-hmm.
And nobody gives up power willingly. That's one of the early lessons from feminism. Nobody gives up power willingly, but smart people will share it.
Mm-hmm.
Stupid people will look at a piece of pie and fight over
Who gets the pie?
who gets the bigger piece of the pie. Smart people will say, let's not focus on this one piece of pie that's already been made. Let's get together and let's bake another pie. And if that's good, we'll bake more pies. And if that's good, we'll build a freaking bakery. And we don't have to worry about who's doing better. We have as much as we need together because we trust each other. We work well together. We were meant for each other. You know, I certainly know that there is more than two sexes, and there are gay people, there are lesbians, but the majority of human life, the majority of humans are looking for a male-female partnership.
Mm.
And I would say that men have done a lot better job so far in getting rid of their sexist stereotypes of women and opening up the formerly male domain to women than has been done by women for the benefit of men in the female domain. And we got to make it happen. We got to make it happen.
No, I definitely agree with making it happen. And just to kind of run it back just a little bit, my way of answering both questions of how the worlds intersect and how to make it better. I think you hit it spot on the head of we need to change, but I think I'm gonna say solution to this because it's kind of what we've been saying is, and this isn't just like a man thing, a woman thing, or anything, but it's just like how you were saying, let people be themselves and get the best talent out of whoever. Because case in point, not to get super political, but it's like not having trans people in the military. my thought process is, why does it matter if who does what and it doesn't matter. If they want to serve, let them serve. So I think that's one big factor, is letting people be the best, be themselves, be the best talent that they are, because because at the end of the, I like to say, at the end of the day, I'm human. We are human. So we have whatever you say this man has, you also have, or whatever this woman has, you also share that component in you. That is also in you as well. Now, how much percentage wise you use of that that's varies on all different types of factors, but we're all made from the same parts, pieces, and everything. So I would just say, let people be people.
Sounds right to me. Sounds right to me. So, a couple of challenges here before we can really proceed full speed ahead with the idea of men entering the convention center in large numbers, is that we need to make sure that the security staff in the convention center knows that the men belong there. Because if we think about there being a disagreement in a big red heart relationship, a loving relationship or an emotional relationship or a social relationship, if we think about a man and a woman having a disagreement, we need to make sure that the security people don't think, oh, this person's a woman, this person's a man. Who's the idiot? Throw the man out. What does he know about the convention center? What does he know about the big red heart? What I'm talking about here is the security person in the convention center is the judge in a divorce case, right? And if the woman says to the security guard, I'm afraid of him, security guard's not going to take a chance and say, oh, well, goodbye, good luck. He's going to say, well, what's going on here? And, the biases are very strong against the man. Recent research has shown that the greatest implicit bias of all is not against blacks, it's not against women, it's against men. There still remains a lot of bias against blacks. So if you are both black and a man, you have a lot of implicit bias against you. Probably, almost certainly, has a lot to do with why there are so many black men in jail, so many black men who are homeless, so many black men who are not living with their kids. The implicit biases are pretty strong. And before I could, in good conscience, say to every man I know who has expressed an interest in being closer to his kids and not spending so much time at work, I would have to say, be careful. Because if you invest heavily your kids emotionally, if you invest your love and time and caring and put your heart and soul into building a tight bond with your kids, and your wife decides she doesn't love you anymore, I can't guarantee that your relationship, your investment is going to be protected. It could be completely wiped out. So, changing the ground rules of marriage, or even just in unmarried parenting, has to be secured first. Think of all of the laws, all of the rules, all of the regulations that we have put into place to ensure that women in the skyscraper are treated fairly. Again, that wasn't just a snap of the fingers. It wasn't easy. Women had to work really hard on that. Men had to really take a deep breath and say, you're right. We got to do this. It's not fair otherwise. Similarly, a lot of things need to happen in the convention center for men to be truly equal, fully respected as parents. And you know, if there is a happy, solid relationship between a father and a mother, they're not always going to agree. You know, the father's going to have one idea what to do with, Susie's problem, and the mother's going to have another idea about what to do about Susie's problem. They're not always going to agree. But if they respect each other and trust each other, they can work something out. That's the ideal. But if the man thinks, oh, well, she's the mother, and since she's the mother, she knows all about raising kids, and I'm just a man, so what do I know? He's going to let the woman make it her way.
Yeah.
And if the woman thinks, well, I'm the mother, what does he know about raising kids? I'm going to get my way come hell or high water. Well, then you're setting up a situation where you're going to have a breakdown in that relationship.
Yes.
Because no man wants to be treated like a chump, like a nobody, like he doesn't have any respect, especially in affairs of the heart.
That actually is what's been on my mind, because what also needs to change is there needs to be compromise. There needs to be reasonable compromise for sure, because something that pops into my head, kind of what you were just kind of going into. There's the saying, and this is something, it's the generalization of the statement of believe all women, which I think you've been doing a good job of trying to include everyone. It's not saying all, or you've been like most, but I say that to say it's, I understand women have gone through traumatic situations, that every situation is different, but to just make a blanket statement of saying believe all women, that's also saying all men is trash, which I have heard on many occasions, which neither statement is true. So I would say, at least for the believe all women, listen, or for both statements, listen to the facts of how they're presented, because at least in for the broad scheme of things, because you never know what's really going on in anyone's respected world.
Fair enough. True enough. Yes. Believe the woman is really just another way of saying, call the man a liar. Believe the man is a liar. Believe the woman is telling the truth. Believe the man is a liar. How can you expect men and the boys who look up at men and see what their future is like according to current trends? How do they look up at that and say, oh yeah, I can't wait to be a man, and I'm going to work real hard in school, and I'm going to work real hard at a job even though I don't like it, and I know it's all going to pay off because I'm going to have love and respect when I'm an adult man. Well, they look up at adult men and they see a lot of adult men aren't getting love and respect. And they wonder, well, why the hell should I go to school? Why should I graduate from high school? Why should I even think about going to college? Why should I even have a job? I'm just going to stay inside and play video games.
And that kind of brings me back again to another, kind of brings us back to the very first topic, is the men's role being that dollar amount. And if young kids see is like, you respect the dollar more than you respect me, what other path do I have if this is what I see? So definitely going full circle is like that on everyone's side. That is something that needs to change, to not overvalue the dollar.
Yes. if a man is valued only for his money and he lives in a depressed area where there aren't a lot of jobs, he doesn't have thousands of dollars in the bank to start a business, if he came out of a lousy high school that barely taught him how to do arithmetic and read and write, how's he supposed to make enough money to win the respect of a woman who thinks that all men are good for is to make money? How's he do that? Well, he isn't going to be doing it with what a lot of people would call chump change. He's going to go for the gusto, going to go for the gold.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to try to make money by any means necessary. And what's that mean? It means people are going to get hurt.
All the time. Every single time. Every single time.
Yeah. Yeah. We gotta be honest here. Let's admit this is going on, and it isn't good for anybody, and we can do better. You know the word misogyny?
I do.
What does it mean to you?
To me, it's kind of gender specific, like men being mind you, I could be completely wrong, but it means men are mistreating women. That's usually how I immediately think of the word.
Okay, that's fair enough. Men mistreating women, men hating women, men not trusting women. That's misogyny. Do you know what the word is for women mistreating men, hating men, not treating men fairly?
Proper definition, it should be the same word, but I don't know a specific term that we use for women mistreating men.
Why do you think that is? That we don't have a common term for that?
Because of the archaic world of where men should be stronger, and so if you're being mistreated by a woman, you're weak, and so get stronger. That's kind of my thought process behind it.
Sounds good. So misogyny is a term that gets bandied about a lot. The kinds of things I've been talking about are often called misogynistic. To me, there's really nothing misogynistic about what I'm saying. Saying women are human. Sometimes they do bad things. Sometimes they behave selfishly, just like men do, just like men did. And to me, the primary cause of misogyny now, and there is a lot of misogyny now. You know, if you look in the deep, dark places on the internet, there's some men saying really ugly things about women. Of course, we should also notice that there are a lot of places where women are saying really ugly things about men, but let's just stay with the misogyny problem. To me, the greatest cause of misogyny is overuse of the word misogyny.
I can see that.
Because if what we've been talking about can be called misogyny, and if being called a misogynist is like the worst thing a man can be, you can shut him up by calling him a misogynist and labeling him a misogynist and saying, oh, I heard this guy on
such and such
podcast, on Julian's podcast, and he was so misogynistic that the discussion is going to end there. If the discussion ends there, if the discussion of the fact that women are human, sometimes do bad things, sometimes behave selfishly, like men do, if men cannot talk about that, if they really do have strong feelings about what they see some women doing and what they see some women getting away with, and they want to talk about that because they don't want what happened to them to happen to any other man or boy, if they can't talk about that, where do their bad feelings go? If they can't express them, if they can't take action on their bad feelings, try to make the problem that caused their bad feelings to be solved, where do those bad feelings go? They go into real misogyny. I hate women. They won't even let me talk about what I feel, what I know, and what I have experienced. The word misogyny should not be used nearly as much as it is.
I completely agree with you, because that's again what I was thinking. We need to create a safe space for everyone to share their experiences. That way, as a society, we can start to evolve and get better for everyone. But those are definitely my thoughts. Jack, I know I asked for only an hour of your time. I can keep having this conversation for quite some time.
Well, you know what might be fun? Do you get many comments from your listeners?
I don't, but I'm open to suggestions, because.
Well, I mean, let's make a special request to your listeners to say what they think about all this. What questions would they have for too many questions? And maybe you actually sort of corner your friends and you say, I need an hour of your time to look at this. Tell me what you think. And what questions would you want to ask on this topic? And then if you get some good questions, and you and Tyler and maybe other people want to, you can do more than just two people, right?
Oh yeah.
We could have a whole big discussion with a lot of people. It could be fun.
I like the way you think. It sounds like you want to come back to have this conversation, so I'll make sure.
I do. It's been fun. It's been fun being with you, and even aside from it's fun being with you. This is the passion of my life. This is what I believe very deeply, and I think the world would be a whole lot better if we could proceed with the second half of getting rid of sexist stereotypes and limitations, in this case against men and boys. So yes, I would love to come back.
Perfect. And I was gonna say the floor is yours. But you can say whatever you want here, but it seems like you definitely gave off what you want and what's your perfect. But if there's anything else you want to include, you have the floor.
Well, yes, I mean, I'm sort of mean this kind of ironically. I do need to join my wife. I told her I would be upstairs at 8. It's a little after 8 right now.
Okay.
We do sort of do something together every evening. It's, just for her and me together.
Okay. Completely understand. If I can I have just to do a thing, and I can do the send off and I can let you go.
Oh, I'd love to see your thing, and then I'll go.
All right. So my thing is always a quote, just because I collect them. And this is a quote that I made myself. But it's just because you say you're one thing does not mean you're stuck being that one thing. That's it.
Very good. It's all about change.
Yes.
Growing.
Yes.
Growing, being open and flexible, and sounds good to me.
Yep. And then just to let you go, my closeout is don't forget to ask yourself, ask others, and never stop asking questions. See you.
Wow, you're still here. Well, if you enjoyed the episode, there are a few different ways to support our podcast. Following us on Twitter, Instagram, or YouTube, or becoming a supporter of our Patreon for $2 or $5 a month, where you'll have access to never-before-released visual episodes, funny bloopers, polls, or you can pose a question. The links can be found in the description wherever you listen. The simplest way to support us is by leaving a review about how great or bad we are, or telling a friend about our show. Anyways, thanks for listening.